Good afternoon, everybody. We are here with Public Works Director Scott Morgan, who's going to give you a winter weather update, and then you are going to be able to ask him some questions. So, Scott, why don't you go ahead and start?
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me. So as Jenny said, this is update from Public Works. Just as a reminder before we get started. So in 2025, we switched our strategy and switched to a kind of a designated route-based approach throughout the city versus just treating hotspots. So we did that in conjunction with TDOT and some other sister agencies. And what that did was that provided a clear approach of what we were doing, but also it used high traffic volume roads that connected to the interstate. So we looked at those high streets. We wanted to get the majority of the citizens, on these major thoroughfares and get them to the interstate, where TDOT does a really good job of treating the interstate. So as we got into this event for 2026, Wednesday the 21st, we started with our pre-treatment process, which is a brine solution that we put on the roads. That was done Wednesday through Thursday, about 46,000 gallons were put all over the street on those designated routes. And as a reminder, that map is posted online and as well as pushed out on social, but it's MemphisTN.gov/snow-ice. And those routes are the ones that, those primary routes are ones we're focused on. And as soon as we start to see accumulation fall early Saturday morning, we begin to treat the roads with salt. We had over 2,000 tons of salt on storage. We have put down approximately 1,200 tons of salt over these routes. And once the accumulation started, we put down the salt. And then once we got enough accumulation, we started plowing. We have anywhere from 12 to 15 plows working. 6 of those plows are contract plows. And the goal is from that plan is to keep one lane open each direction. And as we, continue to work the event, we can open up additional lanes as time goes on. And we've been able to do that on a lot of the routes. Some you'll see 1.5 to 2 lanes open each direction on those routes. So the big difference in this event, I think everybody's aware. I mean, we're lucky to not have the freezing rain like we've had, that was predicted. And, our sister communities in North Mississippi and Eastern Tennessee are struggling with that, with a lot of power outages. But we did get the sleet. And sleet is, from a roadway standpoint, is very similar to freezing rain. Last year when we had our 2 events was all snow. We were able to get out there. We can plow snow. The salt works great. And things just kind of go according to plan. But with the sleet that accumulated over the, several days over the weekend, it just kind of formed an ice block on the road. And without, being able to get to every city street within our corporate limits, that does take a long time to start to break apart and thaw, especially with the cold nights that we're continuing to have. And even if we were, able to get to every street, plowing ice just does not work. The blades just kind of skip across it. We can start to break it up with mechanical, like heavy equipment, but that is a very slow process. So we're really, hoping on Mother Nature, sunny days, warmer temperatures, up until this weekend, and hopefully kind of start breaking a lot of these smaller routes apart from a road perspective. So some additional things. So we've started to look at secondary routes as well. So these are some, smaller streets that aren't on a map, but they would be like Fraser, Hollywood, Sycamore View, Covington Pike, Park, Perkins, things like that. So still kind of arterial collector streets to get to the interstate. We started we deployed all of our crews to put salt on those routes as well. And what we want to do is, with the warmer temperatures in the sun, start having the salt react and with those road surfaces, which will start to kind of hopefully make it slushy. And then if that happens, we can deploy plows. As everyone knows, and I've talked about this before, salt does become less effective when it's less than 15 degrees. So these cooler temperatures, especially at night, and over the weekend, they do have an effect on how the salt does react with the ice. An additional thing, once we started working, early Saturday morning, Public Works has been 24/7. So our crews are, the great men and women of Public Works have been out there. They're your, neighbors and friends. They've been doing really good work keeping these, designated routes open, starting to look at secondary, but we have not taken a break and just trying to get, these streets back open for the citizens of Memphis. The message from the city, if you don't have to get out, we advise that you don't, because we do recognize the smaller streets are still hazardous. But if you do, be very, diligent and cognizant of how you're driving, and leave plenty of, extra time to where you need to get to go. And that's a pretty good overview right now, and I can take any additional questions.
Yes, sir. This is Joe Birch at WMC Action News 5 in Memphis. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Jerry, how you doing?
Thank you so much for this opportunity, Scott. So let me ask you about worker safety. Has everybody stayed safe from your team, and have you had any equipment failure?
Yes, sir. Everybody stayed safe. So we make sure, the crews are safe, one from, the temperatures. So from a PPE perspective, personal protective equipment, clothing and gloves and hats and things like that. In addition, this year, we made sure when we checked all of our equipment back in, I think it's late October, early November, we added a lot of lights, LED lights on the front and back of the equipment. We added heated lights so they wouldn't freeze, really to ensure when our crews are out there at night and in low visibility conditions that, the public can see us. So we had, the addition of the lights, additional lights, I guess, on all the trucks, but we have not had any incidents. Every now and then, I think we've had maybe one or two salt trucks go down, and those are just kind of the mechanical spreaders on the back sometimes get bound up, or we have to replace a sprocket or something. But and then we had one contractor plow go down. I think it was Sunday, and it took them about a day to get that back up and going.
Broken water pipes. Have you had any challenges with freezing and then thaw cycles with water pipes?
Well, that would fall under President McGowan in MLG&W, but from his update this morning, they've had three. They have three reported water main breaks, but that has not affected any distribution or pressures of the system.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, any of the infrastructure of our city affected, beyond what we can see? Is there any, underlying damage to our infrastructure as a result of this cold weather?
Not as of yet. It takes a little longer what would fall under Public Works as far as our drain maintenance and our wastewater collection and treatment. It takes a little longer to respond to some citizens' requests if there's like a sewer backup or similar to that, but we haven't had any major disruptions in our wastewater collection or any issues at the treatment facilities.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Laura.
Hi there. Oh, sorry.
Oh.
I'll
No,
mute myself again.
Sorry, Kayla. Hey, this is Laura Testino at the Daily Memphian. I cover schools and have heard from Memphis Shelby County schools and university schools and others that roadways are still kind of the main obstacle to reopening. Have also talked with forecasters at the National Weather Service just about what they have called this vicious cycle of some melting during the afternoon, and then temperatures are still dropping overnight. So it's kind of, still refreezing and creating pretty icy environments. I heard you talk a little bit about obstacles even with salt, but what's still being done during the day. Thursday's temperatures may provide a little bit of relief, but what are you sort of anticipating as far as staffing, how long it's going to take to kind of get some roads back to a more drivable state?
Right. So, I mean, as far as staffing, we're full staff 24/7. Even during the night hours, we are plowing, working the roads, um, putting down salt efficiently to make sure we don't put it down and then immediately kind of come back behind it and plow. We want to put it down and give it time to work, and and again, hopefully it's above that 15 degrees mark as the next couple of days will show. Um, but yeah, we continue to do that. But again, the smaller streets, the shady 2-lane streets, your neighborhood streets, so those will still be impacted, and it will take some time for those to start breaking up.
Just as a follow-up to that, Memphis has snowy weather. It seems like once or twice every year. A lot of times that's ice, sometimes that's been real snow. This sort of snow plus sleet plus ice mix, is that typically what's been happening in recent years, or is there anything that's specific to this winter weather that has made the road situation more difficult to manage?
I don't know if it's been different from a historical or normal perspective as far as weather patterns, but last year the 2 events that we had was straight snow, and those were the new plan that went in. We also had sun afterwards and warming temperatures, and we were able to get after it and get the primary routes plowed. We went to secondary routes and moved on. So I mean, and the roads responded with the sun and started melting rather quickly. But again, this one with the minimal freezing rain we had, but the accumulation of the sleet just kind of bound everything up. And when it refroze, or when it kept freezing, especially with the 5-10 degree nights, it just kind of formed a block of ice that is very difficult, one, to move if we were able to get everywhere, but two, difficult from a melting perspective when it's just stacked on top of several days accumulation. You got 3, 4, 5 inches in some spots. It's going to take some time for the sun to heat the asphalt beneath it and start breaking that up.
Thank you.
Hey, Scott, this is Lucas Finn with Commercial Appeal. A little while ago, you mentioned that you guys are kind of expanding your reach to some North Memphis and Fraser streets. Which streets are those, and do you have a timeline for when those might be a little bit more clear?
Yeah, so not specifically, North Memphis. So the primary routes. I mean, I'm sure y'all have the map. I can share some street names if you like, but what I was referring to is we're switching to secondary routes. And what we did this morning is we went out to all the secondary routes, which would Fraser, Hollywood, Sycamore View, Covington Pike, Park, Perkins, locations like that. There's still major thoroughfares that connect to interstates, but we applied salt on all those routes, and we want to give it some time to work. If we start seeing, with the warming temperatures, we start seeing a reaction that starts breaking that ice sleet down, we will start plowing those roads.
Okay, Kayla,
So right now we're just kind of monitoring the salt application to see if we can get and start plowing it.
All right, Kayla, can you ask your question now?
Yes, Kayla Solomon, Fox 13. So one is kind of a twofold question. Do you have an approximate number of exactly how many secondary routes we're talking about? And two, what is the backup plan or the emergency plan if you all do go through and apply salt on these areas and see that it's not working as quickly as you'd like it to? Then what becomes the course of action?
Well, I can get you the full list. I mean, I have the ones short of me just taking a minute to look at a map, but the ones that I just named are primarily the ones on it, but we can certainly send that out. I think the backup plan would be to apply another round of salt and just kind of watch it, especially with the even warmer temperatures tomorrow in the sun, and it should start breaking up. If it's not, we'll try to start plowing, but again, it's when that ice, I want to just kind of reiterate the ice versus snow, and that's not just a Memphis issue. That's any across the country, just plowing ice does not work. And it'll be a very long process that really is more, we'd have to wait for Mother Nature and the warming weathers to start breaking this up and before we can start getting in there and pushing it around.
And can you also just reiterate for people, because there's a lot of people questioning why their neighborhoods aren't necessarily getting plowed, at least not right now. Can you just reiterate why it's important to get, certain roads plowed quicker than others?
Yeah. So, I mean, the city is very large. I mean, we know it's a sprawling city. We have 6,800 lane miles of streets to cover. And we don't have the capacity to hit every street. So when we developed this approach, we wanted to make sure with our partner agencies, MPD and MATA and TDOT, that we're hitting the biggest routes that move the most volume of traffic to the interstates and trying to get people around the city, safely. And then as we're able to improve those streets and get at least one lane open in each direction, we can start looking at secondary streets. But even after that, to get into the neighborhoods is too big a lift for the equipment and the manpower that we have here in the city to cover 6,800 lane miles.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, that's it. We will thank you, Scott, for giving us the update, Director Morgan. And if you guys have any other questions, just send them my way and we'll try and get those questions answered.